You know that feeling after a really powerful sermon
Oh, yeah.
when the words just kind of echo in your head and you feel like you need to keep digging into it, Understand it a bit deeper than just what you heard right then.
Totally. It's like
Th-
the conversation isn't really over when the service ends.
Exactly. And that's kind of the vibe we want to keep going today.
Yeah.
We're picking up right where Pastor Florin left off this past Sunday.
Hmm.
We're going to dive deep into his sermon, Hidden Growth. It was part of the Kingdom of God series.
Right, the one on Mark 4.
Yeah, he really focused on the parable of the growing seed. And honestly, there's so much there to unpack, especially, I think, for us figuring out what it really means to, follow Jesus day to day.
And I think our mission for this deep dive is pretty important because it hits on a real struggle, maybe especially for younger people today.
Okay.
It's that gap, between just knowing about faith, collecting the facts, and actually living it. Like, what does it really mean to be an apprentice of Jesus, not just a student?
Right, not just concepts.
No, it's about what we do, the actual practice.
Okay, so let's unpack this parable then, because it seems simple, but it's surprisingly deep. Pastor Florin kicked us off with Mark 4, verses 26 to 29.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a man who scatters seed, goes about his life sleeping, getting up, day after day, and the seed just sprouts and grows, though he does not know how.
Yeah, it's such a simple picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost passive sounding on the surface.
Right.
But the sermon really broke down that imagery, which I thought was helpful, giving us a clearer picture. Let's start with the seed.
Okay.
Pastor Florin explained it's kind of two things intertwined. Primarily, it's the message of the kingdom, the gospel.
The good news.
The good news Jesus is preaching. But, and this is important, it also represents the people where that message takes root.
Ah, okay. So not just the idea, but the person receiving it.
Exactly. Those who hear it, believe it, respond. And it makes sense because this parable comes right after the parable of the sower, which really hammers that link between the seed as God's word and the different soils or hearts.
Okay, so the seed isn't just some abstract message floating around. It's alive. It's connected to people changing. That definitely challenges just thinking about faith intellectually, doesn't it?
It really does. It implies a living, growing thing within people.
Okay, so what about the man scattering the seed? Who's that?
So he represents the servants of God spreading the good news.
So us,
Well,
followers of Jesus.
That's us. We're called to that work. Pastor Florin also added this interesting layer, though. He mentioned the ominous tone of the harvest later.
Yeah, the sickle.
Right. And he suggested this man could even refer to, angelic beings, a bit like the wheat and tares parable in Matthew, where the harvesters sort things out.
Interesting. So it adds this sort of cosmic dimension, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. It suggests it's not just us casually tossing seed, but maybe a more intentional commissioned act. By us, yes, but maybe involving unseen forces, too.
And then the time element, the night and day, sleeping and getting up. What did the sermon draw out from that?
Well, it's not just the farmer's routine. It really signifies the passage of time, right? The ongoing, sometimes mundane rhythm of our daily lives.
Okay.
And while all that regular life is happening, something amazing is going on unseen. The sermon stressed that the seed sprouts. This message actually results in new life.
Wow.
And there's this deep mystery to how that life begins, how belief turns into, something real.
Yeah.
It's beyond our full control or even understanding. God's work just keeps going.
That gets right to the sermon title, doesn't it? Hidden growth.
Exactly.
This mysterious, quiet start of new life happening under the surface. It's a good reminder that our busyness isn't the only thing making things happen.
Precisely. And from that little sprout, you get the grain. The stalk, then the head, then the full kernel.
Right, the stages of growth.
Yeah, it clearly represents growth over time, the maturity of the person who took in the message day by day, but also it symbolizes the spread of the gospel message itself. Pastor Florin put it nicely. He said the kingdom's growth might seem imperceptible, really slow, until one day you look and fields are ready to be harvested.
So it's unceasing, but mysterious.
Yeah.
We need patience and faith for what we can't always see.
Yeah, the big takeaway, God's kingdom grows, even when we don't get how.
And then the harvest. That felt like a really crucial part of the parable Pastor Florin emphasized.
Oh, definitely. The harvest points to the day of the Lord, a day of reckoning maybe, or judgment.
Yeah.
Jesus used that kind of language a lot.
And a sickle makes that pretty clear.
Right. The sermon said the good news comes with, an expiration date. It's not just endless process.
As soon as the grain is right, he puts the sickle to it because the harvest has come.
Yeah. It shows that while the growth is hidden, it has a definite purpose and a divine endpoint. So the takeaway there is the kingdom's growth isn't random, it's heading somewhere specific.
Okay, so if this is how the kingdom works, this mysterious hidden growth, the steady spread, this ultimate harvest, then what's our part? What's the so what? Especially for us trying to live this out practically.
Right, and that brings us right to Pastor Floren's first application point. He was pretty direct.
Yeah.
He said, the message of God is spread by the servants of God. So know the message and seed lavishly. Don't be stingy with the seeds.
Well, lavishly. That's a strong word. It's a clear call to action that we have an active role in this hidden growth.
Absolutely. It's about being generous with the message we've received.
And he really seemed to hit on a common struggle, didn't he? That maybe in our culture, we tend to err on the side of not seeding enough.
Yeah, holding back.
Maybe out of fear or embarrassment or just feeling like we don't know enough. We hold on to the very thing we believe brings life.
I think that's common.
Yeah.
And Pastor Florence specifically warned about getting sidetracked. He mentioned getting bogged down in theological debates.
Like the Arminianism or Calvinism example he gave.
Exactly. Now, those discussions about free will, God's sovereignty, they can be important for deeper study, sure. But his point was, getting lost only in those kinds of debates can, quote, distract us from the mission and endanger the unity of fellowship.
Ah, okay. So the focus should be less on winning doctrinal points?
And more on actually spreading the message of God and encouraging one another towards growth. That was his emphasis. It wasn't anti-theology, it was pro-mission focus.
Okay, now here's where I thought it got really interesting, especially thinking about, younger people wanting to grow, but feeling stuck sometimes. Like you gather knowledge, listen to talks, read books, basically growing healthy stalk and leaves, but they don't see the fruit, the practical difference in their lives.
Yeah.
Pastor Florin called it being fat little plants.
That analogy really landed, didn't it? It highlights a paradox. He said, too many times we focus on being fat little plants with healthy stalk and leaves, but with little fruit. Meaning, you can have a full head of biblical knowledge, but we fail as practitioners. Someone who knows all the answers, ace Bible trivia, but struggles to actually love their difficult neighbor or serve someone sacrificially or share their faith naturally. Robust theory, little practice.
And he contrasted that with people who barely know anything, but they're loaded with fruit to the point of being bent over. That image is powerful. Kind of uncomfortable, actually.
It really makes you think, knowing about Jesus just isn't the same as following Jesus.
So what's the key then? How do we get the fruit?
Well, the crucial insight, and this ties right back to our apprenticeship idea, is that your growth must involve learning and practicing what you've learned.
Okay, learning AD practicing.
It's not optional. It's the core of being an apprentice. Learning carpentry, you don't just read about hammers.
Right, you got to swing one, make mistakes.
Exactly. You learn by doing with the master guiding you. The doing is part of the learning.
That connects directly to what Jesus told his disciples. Right, as Pastor Florin put it from the Great Commission. Go and make apprentices, baptizing them and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you.
That word obey is key there.
Yeah, it shows that following Jesus isn't just mental agreement. It's practical. It's about embodying the teaching, obedience-focused.
And that leads to the paradox Pastor Florin mentioned. He said, the more you practice what you know, the more you are able to engage with and learn the teachings of Jesus.
Wait, say that again? Practice helps you learn more.
Yeah, it's like a feedback loop.
Right.
Acting on what you know actually deepens your understanding. You try to live it out, you hit roadblocks, you see nuances you missed just reading about it.
Okay, that makes sense. Like try to speak a language versus just studying grammar rules.
Exactly that. Practical application unlocks deeper learning.
And he brought in James too, didn't he?
Yes, powerfully. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves.
Oof, deceiving yourselves. That puts the responsibility squarely on us, not just soaking it in, but actually doing something with it.
It really does. It shifts us from being passive consumers to active participants. That's apprenticeship.
So let's bring it down to the now what. How do we as apprentices actually do this seeding properly? What were the practical steps from the sermon?
Oh, okay.
Because this is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
For anyone trying to live this out.
Yeah, and Pastor Florin gave some really clear, actionable things. First, he said it's about making people think. Let them ask questions. Don't force agreement.
Okay, so not about winning arguments.
No. Plant a seed of curiosity. Second, remember you sometimes need to earn the right to be heard. That means listening first, really understanding where someone's coming from.
That takes humility.
It does. Third, show practical compassion before the message can be received. Sometimes the best seed is just an act of kindness, showing God's love before you even talk about it.
Wow, yeah. Action before words.
And finally, when you do share your perspective or ask a question, don't argue. Just offer it. Listen to their response. Build bridges, not walls.
That feels so much healthier, doesn't it? Focusing on connection, not debate scores. And he made that point about focus, too.
Yeah,
Focus on mission and you'll build unity.
right. Focus on mission and you'll be too busy to stir up discord.
Mm-hmm.
It's about valuing the person over just ideas or being right. That could change a lot, even inside the church.
Totally.
And he really boiled down Jesus's priorities. He highlighted what Jesus didn't command, like go fix the culture, or go win all the political battles, or go debate theology endlessly.
Mm-hmm. Boy.
Not that those things aren't part of life, but Jesus's core commands were simple. Love the Lord your God, love your neighbor as yourself, and
Go and make apprentices of all nations.
exactly, that clarifies the mission. Love God, love people, make more apprentices. Pretty clear direction.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really hammered home that the kingdom grows in these mysterious hidden ways we don't fully get.
Mhm.
But our role as apprentices is crucial. We have to actively participate by weaving together learning with practice, consistent practice, being those fruit-bearing plants, not just leafy ones.
That's it, exactly. It's about the integration. So maybe the question for all of us listening is, thinking about Pastor Florin's challenge to practice what you know. What's one small practical thing you could actually do this week?
Right.
Based on something you already know about Jesus, something that could contribute even in a tiny way to that hidden growth in your life or maybe around you. Could be listening better, maybe offering help practically, or just sharing a real question about faith without needing to debate it. Just one small step in practicing.